Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It is Sunday, and do you know what that means? That's right. I'm going to be at the Bronco game in the cold. But guess what? You get a weekly recap of all the top stories for the week of January 19th, 2026, all in one location. You are welcome. Hope you enjoy the show. We'll see you next time. Remember, the Constitution matters.
All right, lawyer.
Can I just say it? I'm going to say it. The Reiner case, it's going nowhere fast, okay? Based upon what we're learning, we knew he had mental health issues, but there's going to be a motion for competency filed by the next court date. So obviously those know that the tragic death of Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, continue to unfold in the Los Angeles legal system, with their son, Nick Reiner, facing serious charges for murder. On December 14th, the couple were discovered fatally stabbed in their master bedroom of their Brentwood residence, obviously an affluent neighborhood there in Los Angeles. And their daughter, Romy Reiner, who lives nearby, reportedly found the scene after a massage therapist scheduled for an appointment was unable to gain entry and contacted her. Emergency responders confirmed the victims' identities and determined the deaths resulted from multiple sharp force injuries, classifying the incident as a homicide. Needless to say, the Los Angeles police promptly identified and tracked down Nick Reiner, who they believe is responsible for the deaths, and he was arrested later that evening in the Exposition Park area near the University of Southern California without any resistance. Now, police utilized geo-tracking, cell phone data, and surveillance footage to locate him, and the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office subsequently charged Nick Reiner with 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with special circumstances for multiple murders and the use of a dangerous weapon, to wit, a knife. If convicted, he could face life imprisonment as well as the potential of a death penalty, though we all know that's not going to happen in this particular case. Now, the Reiners had 3 children, Jake, Nick, and Romy. Nick Reiner has a documented history of substance abuse, including methamphetamine use, which he publicly disclosed in interviews and contributed to a film inspired by his experiences in life. Now, sources indicate he was diagnosed with schizophrenia disorder, combined elements of schizophrenia and mood disorder, and has undergone multiple rehabilitation programs. Well, recent reports state that Nick Reiner's current condition in custody can only be described as severely impaired. Insiders characterize him as almost childlike and delirious, reportedly unable to fully process the consequences of the alleged acts or his present circumstances, despite being aware of what obviously has taken place. Now, it's noted that Nick is presently deemed not competent to stand trial. As you may recall, he wasn't cleared to go to court early on, hence the reason why there's some early continuances of the arraignment. So obviously, with suggestions that he's not competent, plus the recent change in his schizophrenia-related medications prompted by complications of side effects like drugs, may have contributed to a significant deterioration in his mental state. Now, obviously, this incident exhibited extreme brutality, consistent with accounts of intense drug-influenced episodes, and though official confirmation of direct meth rage links remain speculative at this point. Anyway, Nick Reiner appeared in court shortly after the charges, wearing a suicide prevention garment, and his initial arraignment has previously been postponed. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, if he is in this childlike state, doesn't appreciate what's going on, the attorney, the public defender now, is going to be filing a motion for competency evaluation, basically saying he does not appreciate or understand what's going on here. And even if he can kind of explain, hey, this is what I'm charged with, he cannot assist his defense counsel in his defense. And that's one of the prongs for competency, is you have to be able to assist your defense counsel in doing so. And if he is unable to do so, file that motion. Gives you time not only for the evaluation, but it also gives you time to explore the not guilty by insanity defense that would certainly come if he is ever restored to competency. It's going to be an interesting case, but this case is going nowhere fast. And my guess is, get the popcorn out, but it's going to take a while. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process. Next on the docket, more photos released in the Kohberger case. That's right. Police have made public a collection of newly unsealed photographs providing an in-depth view of the residence where the University of Idaho students were fatally stabbed back in 2022. The images have been distributed by the Idaho State Police, and they depict both the internal and external aspects of the property that was located on King Road. They illustrate a setting characteristic of student accommodations, featuring scattered beverage containers, including cans, bottles, and disposable red cups. Among the items captured is a delivery bag labeled with the name of victim, Zaina Kernodle, which appears to be from a meal ordered on the evening of the incident. Now, the victims, Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Zaina Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were discovered deceased in the off-campus home following the attacks. Brian Kohberger, the individual convicted in the case based upon his guilty pleas to the charges of murder and burglary. Now, the decision was made to circumvent the possibility of capital punishment, resulting in a sentence of 4 life sentences to be served consecutively, which means he will never get out of prison. Now, prior to Kohberger's plea, much of the evidentiary material had been withheld from the public access in preparation for the upcoming trial. Following a judicial directive from Judge Stephen Hippler, the materials were reviewed and subsequently declassified. This release follows the recent disclosure of investigative documents by the Idaho State Police, now supplemented by several hundred crime scene photographs. Additional images in the collection include forensic examination of Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra, shown with a layer of investigative powder and its interior seating dismantled during evidence collections. Sections of the home's walls exhibiting blood spatter are also documented, highlighting the extent of the forensic analysis conducted at the site. For further details on related evidence, including visuals from Kohberger's personal residence and workspace, additional resources are available through the official channels. Now, this development obviously shows the attempted transparency efforts in this very high-profile case, allowing a little public insight on the procedural aspects of the case while trying to, respect the sensitivity of the matter. You know where I stand on this, ladies and gentlemen? Case is over. Stuff should be released. Everything. All the gruesome stuff as well. If you don't want to watch it, don't go look at it. But the public has a right to know, in my humble opinion. And like I said, should be made available. People should be warned what they're about to see. Obviously, they can redact photos, images, sensitive things. Happens all the time. You see it on TV shows all the time. They redact the picture of the eyes, any private areas, things like that. But yet we have to wait for the judge to say it's okay for us to do it. We're adults. We see this stuff all the time. You can see it all the time. Heck, you can go on your feed anywhere and watch people getting blown up in Ukraine, for goodness sakes. I think we can take a look and see some still images. I understand what the judge is trying to do, trying to be sensitive, but at the end of the day, full transparency from the government, particularly about crimes that take place, should be commonplace. It shouldn't be the exception to the rule. A jury acquits the former Uvalde school police officer in the Robb Elementary shooting case. That's right. A Texas jury has acquitted Adrian Gonzalez, the former police officer with the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District, of all charges related to his actions or inactions during the 2022 Robb Elementary School shooting. The verdict, delivered last night, clears Gonzalez of 29 counts of child abandonment and endangerment stemming from the tragic event that resulted in the deaths of 19 students and 2 teachers. The jury reached its decision after approximately 7 hours of deliberations in a trial held in Texas following the defense's successful motion to relocate the proceedings from Uvalde County due to concerns about community bias. Now, Gonzalez, who's 52 and a 10-year veteran in law enforcement, faced potential imprisonment of up to 2 years per count, each charge corresponding to the 19 children killed and 10 injured survivors in the massacre perpetrated by then 18-year-old Salvador Ramos back on May 24th of 2022. Now, the prosecutors, led by Special Prosecutor Bill Turner, appointed by the Uvalde County District Attorney Christina Mitchell, argued that Gonzalez failed to adhere to his training protocols. And as the instructor of an active shooter response course conducted just 2 months prior to the incident, Gonzalez was accused of not intervening to prevent Ramos from entering the school building. Now, over the course of the 2-week trial, the prosecution presented testimony from witnesses who described the scene's devastation, supplemented by graphic photographic evidence. Now, Gonzalez did not testify in his own defense. His legal team, headed by Nico LaHood and included attorneys Jason Gross and Gary Hiller, contended that Gonzalez acted courageously amid the chaos. They emphasized body cam footage showing him as one of the initial responders entering a hazardous smoke-filled hallway in the attempt to confront the assailant. Gonzalez did not observe the gunman and noted that other officers present failed to engage Ramos while he remained outside the school. They argued that a conviction would impose an unrealistic standard of perfection on law enforcement during crisis, potentially deterring decisive action in future emergencies. In closing arguments, the prosecutors appealed to the jury to hold Gonzalez accountable as a means of reinforcing officers' obligations to protect vulnerable individuals, particularly children, in active threat scenarios. Now, the defense countered by portraying Gonzalez as a dedicated officer who risked his life in what they described as a hallway to death, where others hesitated. Following the acquittal, Gonzalez addressed reporters, expressing gratitude to divine providence, his family, his spouse, and his legal counsel. He commended the jury for their thorough review of the evidence, but declined to offer immediate comments to the families of the victims. Now, LaHood, the attorney, elaborated on the defense strategy, which spanned from jury selection to evidence presentation and final statements, leveraging prosecution witnesses to underscore key points. Now, Gonzalez and former Uvalde police chief Peter Arredondo were the only two officers criminally charged in connection with the delayed response to the shooting, which has drawn obviously a lot of scrutiny for law enforcement's handling of the crisis. Now, Arredondo faces 10 similar counts of child endangerment, with his trial yet to be determined. Presiding over the case was a judge by the name of Sid Harrell. Now, the prosecution anticipated calling up to 60 witnesses, including medical examiners, responding officers, and healthcare professionals, and relatives of the victims, though only 36 testified. Now, conviction on these state charges obviously could have resulted in a lengthy sentence, but obviously they will not now because he was acquitted. Obviously, big debate on accountability in these mass shooting type of situations. And, we'll see how these proceedings are going to affect the Arredondo trial. If the prosecutor was smart, they should dismiss the case against the police chief as well. This police officer, you may not like his conduct or you think he should be held responsible, but the reality of it is jurors may have looked at this and said, what would you have done under the same circumstances? Most people would be running the other way. This guy stayed, maybe didn't like exactly what he did, but it does set a dangerous precedent. Now, we talked about this when this trial was starting, that, there's case law out there, established precedent, that you can't sue the government for not responding, quick enough to your 911 call. So I was a little surprised that this actually made it to a jury, but the jury clearly rejected this, and this Corpus Christi jury, obviously not an Uvalde jury, which probably would have convicted the officer, looked at this and said, this is just a bridge too far. We can't go there. And I get it, mass shooting, something like that, everybody wants to hold somebody accountable. But the person that's responsible in this particular case, the shooter, he's dead. Okay? And I get you want somebody held accountable, but this is not the way to do it. That's right. The former Olympic snowboarder, a guy by the name of Ryan Wedding, accused of being a drug kingpin and murder, gets arrested. So in what would be a significant development for the international law enforcement, Ryan Wedding, the 44-year-old former Olympic snowboarder and fugitive on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted, has been apprehended in Mexico. Authorities confirmed his arrest Friday morning, marking the end of a high-profile manhunt that spanned multiple countries. Now, Mr. Wedding, who competed in the snowboarding at the Olympics before allegedly transitioning into a more lucrative career in organized crime, faces now serious charges related to an extensive cocaine trafficking operation. Prosecutors allege that he directed a network responsible for transporting large quantities of cocaine from Colombia through Mexico and then obviously into Southern California to destinations in Canada and other locations within the United States. Now, in addition to drug-related offenses, he is accused of ordering several murders to protect and advance his criminal activities. Now, the United States Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the arrest via a post on social media platform X, where she stated, quote, "At my direction, Department of Justice agents and FBI have apprehended yet another member of the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. Ryan Wedding, the one-time Olympian snowboarder, turned alleged violent cocaine kingpin. Wedding was flown to the United States where he will face justice." Now, this statement underscores the collaborative efforts of federal agencies in pursuing this high priority target. Now, Wedding's placement on the FBI's most wanted list occurred back in March of 2025, as declared by the assistant director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles field office at the time. And at that time, he was linked to aliases including El Jefe, Giant, and Public Enemy, James Conrad King, and Jesse King. A recent photograph of Wedding, believed to have been captured in Mexico during the summer of 2025, was released by the FBI last month to aid in his identification and ultimate capture. To incentivize public assistance, the United States Department of State had offered a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to his arrest, in addition to an additional $50,000 reward from the FBI. Now, these incentives reflect the severity and the seriousness of the charges and are obviously take Mr. Wedding as a great threat to the country. Anyway, Mr. Wedding has been transported to the United States, where he is expected to appear in court to answer to the indictment against him, including murder and money laundering in connection with the drug trafficking organization. Obviously going to be an interesting story, just the fact that the guy, went from snowboarding to drug kingpin. That's a big deal. Anyway, we'll bring you more information on that as it becomes available. It's going to be an interesting case to see. And these drug cases, understand, ladies and gentlemen, they usually have you wrapped up pretty tight, particularly in the feds. Now, of course, the case will drag on for several months, even though under the federal speedy trial laws, from the time he enters a plea of not guilty, they have 70 days to get him to trial. Now, could any attorney probably be prepared to represent him in that short amount of time? No. But then you also have to think about, do you think the government would actually be ready to go to trial in 70 days from now? Getting all their witnesses, be like herding cats. Sometimes it's the best defense, is they're unprepared.